step one, why are we doing this? Okay? So every time you go to think about raising dollars, why are we doing it? I also want to talk real quick in this part about why you give to fundraisers. So you as a person, as a student at UMBC, you have a limited number of dollars in your life, right? When you're walking down the street, what makes you decide to give to an organization or to give to a cause, to give to somebody else that's fundraising?
If I know it's going to help someone in need.
Okay, so if it's going to a cause that you feel really genuinely about. What else?
They explain really well like why they're doing it and what's the reason for it.
Got it. So when they can articulate why they're there and why you should care, I think that also goes to preparedness. Like, if I see that somebody is prepared, I'm like, yeah, you can have my dollar. Good work. Yes.
If I know the people who are raising the funds and I know they'll be responsible with my money.
Got it. So if you have a personal connection, I'm going to put that into a fundraising term, you are now part of their base. So when you are connected to an organization, you're going to regularly give because you now feel connected, you know your money's going to be well cared for and stewarded well, and you are now part of that base that they're going to go to every single time. Building your base. Good thought. Step two, when you're thinking about sitting down to plan a fundraiser, would you give to this? Does this make sense in your kind of personal framework and why people give? So we go to some of those same things every time, and then we're bummed when we're not getting the dollars in that we want. Would you give to it? If not, you might want to think a little more creatively. Cool? Why we fundraise and why we give? Moving on? Sweet. Let's clicker.
What are profit goals in a sense? Profit goals as in how much you're spending and then how much you're actually making through the thing. So like, what are some of your profit goals?
At the radio station, we would like to raise money for equipment and things like that. But SGA does give us money for those things too.
Yeah.
We need New Jerseys.
Yeah.
And there's a dollar amount that's going to cost, isn't there? Yep.
Yes.
To donate to philanthropy.
Yeah.
So sometimes that profit goal is as much as possible.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, profit goals are all over the place from buying just food to obviously donating large sums of money to other companies or charities and stuff like that. So the important thing that you guys have to realize when we're setting profit goals is that we have to figure out how much we're actually spending and then how much we're actually going to make out of the fundraiser. It's not sensible to have a fundraiser that costs $500 to set up, but making $100 out of it,
You lost money.
yeah, you lost $400 and now you're in the hole. And now you have to work up towards trying to get yourself out of that hole because now you're $400 down. So it's an important thing to always set up budget before you actually start your fundraisers, because if you guys don't set up budgets, then you guys don't know how much money you're spending and then how much money you're going to actually come out of it. It's really no use to have a fundraiser if you're going to waste manpower, time, and effort, and especially money if you're not going to get anything out of it.
Yeah.
That saying, it's a little different, obviously. I mean, you should always be thinking of other stuff, like we mentioned before, having awareness on the campus and stuff like that. I know one of the big things we did was we were very big about awareness because last year was our first year. We just wanted to get our name out there. So just stuff like that you also need to think about. But like I said, the main thing about fundraising is to raise funds, obviously, to make those dollars. So always set up a budget. That way you know what you're going into and then what you're hopefully going to come out with.
And even in the planning process, even if it is something small like a bake sale or something like that, or even like a donation box, know that, okay, if we make this much money, it was worth it. And if you think that you can make that much money, this is a go for this fundraiser. Let's plan it, let's get it happening. If you don't think you can really manage to make that much money, it might not be worth your time to even plan it, because you can maybe brainstorm with your group another fundraiser that would be better anyway. So it's kind of about, let's think about the profit first, the whole goal of your fundraiser, before we spend the time planning and investing in it.
And if you're going to lose money on it and you're still like, but we really want to do it, now it's just an awareness event. So just stop calling it a fundraiser and you'll feel a lot better about it. Now you're just doing an awareness program.
Yeah.
And that's going to have different goals and different outcomes and should look maybe slightly different. I joke here pretty often, but we really love our bake sales at UMBC, right? Because it's one of the only things that we can sell without violating our contract, blah, 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 I know that. But I think sometimes if we just donated the supply money, like, so it cost me $12 to make cupcakes, it cost you $6 to make cupcakes, we might come out ahead from our cupcake supplies versus what we sold at the bake sale.
To think expenditures versus profit, is it gonna be worth it? And then, if not, do we still wanna do this event for awareness? And which is so very important, because the more people know about your org, maybe in the future they're more likely to participate in your fundraiser. And that does create, like Susan said, a good base on campus, which is good, because there's a lot of orgs fundraising, and on-campus fundraisers get competitive.
Yeah.
So these are do's versus don'ts, our little fashion pugs. Just for you to.
Don't trust me, fun life.
Yeah, don't. These are like your fundraisers, a very loose analogy. The good and the bad. There we go. So let's talk about successful prepared fundraisers versus poorly planned fundraisers, some do's and don'ts. So one really big thing that we've talked about is kind of like you need to be intentional about your fundraiser. So to make sure your fundraiser is well planned, you need to be very intentional. Like, we're doing this for this reason with this goal. And it's not just you, maybe you put yourself in charge of this one fundraiser, but working with your entire org, articulating yourself so that you're not just like, buy a cupcake for Club Lacrosse, and everyone's like,
Club Lacrosse needs new jerseys. I'd be like, here's $2.
Yeah, see, that's
I
very
don't want
different.
anything.
Like, it's like, okay, they have a specific goal. I'm gonna buy their cupcake. Another thing that's important, especially at UMBC, is thinking about your population. So if you wouldn't spend money on it, why is anyone else going to spend money on it? You know what I mean? And you have to think about what other orgs are doing. Like, what is SCB doing for free that we're asking people to spend money on to do? Because, then you're not gonna get a lot of people going to your fundraiser.
I think we can get a lot more creative about how can we build a population and how can I actively get people, like, not just walking through, who might actually want to participate in my fundraiser. So, like, for instance, I've never played lacrosse in my life. I have never been to a lacrosse game, I don't think. I'm from the Midwest, like, I didn't grow up with lacrosse, but I'm really interested in it. I don't know, like, anything about it. I think I'd probably really like it. I'd probably play you $5 if you taught me to, like, throw a lacrosse ball and let me hold a stick. But I'm probably not as much gonna just be like, oh, lacrosse, that's nice. I like the game. Like, think about how you can get people to come to you and buy into your idea. I have a friend that I used to work with who moved to San Francisco, and she participated in the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Woman of the Year competition. And so she had 10 weeks to raise as much money as she could, however she wanted, to basically be named the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society Woman of the Year. And she raised $210,000 in 10 weeks by really creatively thinking about who her populations were. So she had some events that were specifically geared at straight out of college, men and women, at bars in San Francisco. Don't go to bars, that was. She also did a lot though for like parents, like who has a connection to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society that I don't generally interact with, but that I could if I had an interest or if I had something that I could offer them. She also just totally, like, unrelated to leukemia and lymphoma, thought, who has a lot of money and what do they want to spend it on? So she created these really quirky, like, high-end events of, like, $5,000, you get to do batting practice with the San Francisco Giant player. She was like, I don't even know what this is, but a lot of people gave me $5,000 to do it. And cool, here's a jersey. It says Leukemia and Lymphoma Society on it too. So really think creatively about how you can get people to you that aren't your already base. They've already given you all the dollars they have. You need to get more creative. Are there ways you can use the community? Are there ways you can use your parents? Are there ways you can talk to your faculty and staff members? Because I walk through that breezeway every day. I cannot give $1 every single day. Just plain don't make enough money for that, sorry. But if somebody comes to my office and says, we're doing this fundraiser, here's why, here's what it's going to go to, I will likely give. Maybe they're not going to, that's fine. But you still hit them up for awareness. They're still part of your base now. Maybe next time they will. You got to think more than just the people walking through the breezeway. They are topped out. Yeah. Cool. Communicating. So student life and student events, sorry, not student events, planning services are in Suite 326, 336, right across the hall. And we're hopefully one of your first go-to people when you think about planning an event on campus. So if you need a cash box, if you need space, if you need to find out if you can do this or if it's against the rules, somebody over there is going to be happy to help you. Also, you really need to think about how you communicate with the members of your org. So there is nothing that's going to kill your fundraiser faster than you pulled that random, kind of loosely affiliated member of your org to sit at that table because you weren't prepared and now you just desperately need someone there. And they're like, when I say, oh, what's this going to be used for? And they're like, I think maybe like pizza. Awesome. Here's $1 because you're sad. You gotta really communicate the purpose to every member who's going to be engaged. And you have to communicate that plan really far in advance. So think about when your deadlines are, who needs to know about this, how can we communicate it to the broad campus? Have we used our spotlights, if there's a program or an event with it? Have we sent an email out to our base? Have we created a Facebook? Think about how you're getting that message out there in a way that isn't just standing behind a table begging for money.
And also an important thing to think about that we've actually utilized a couple times that went really well for us for our org is collaborating with other orgs that have similar interests as you do. So whether that means they want to like maybe split the funds you make some way, if that's the case, make sure you guys agree upon that before you even start planning, because that can be very stressful and create tension. So don't go in like, we're going to split the money, but then wait until after you've gotten all the money to be like, oh, we want to split 50-50, but maybe you did way more of the fundraising planning, and you're like, no, we definitely deserve more of the money. Don't do that to yourself. Make sure it's like, okay, we're going to like book the event and do most of the planning, but if you show up and volunteer, we'll give you like 20% of the money. Do you know what I mean? But it also could be like a lot of Greek life, if you're doing something that's similar to their philanthropy. We've had Greek Life help us just by coming to the event, and it gives it more visibility when you're working with other orgs, because now you're reaching out beyond your friend base and like your org's kind of normal network into another network, and then you have that network for future use as well.
Spend a lot of time, don't spend a lot of time on little profit. That just goes back to saying that just be organized and you won't have that waste of time. If you're gonna make a little bit of profit, there's no point of wasting a whole bunch of time delegating a fundraiser if you're not going to make that much profit. Again, back to what Susan said earlier, pick where you're going to go. If you're going to just do an awareness thing, do the awareness thing. If you're going to do a fundraiser thing, do the fundraiser thing. Think about one aspect at a time. Don't try to collaborate everything and try to do 800 things at the same time, just because then it could just fall down and crumble and you're not going to get anything done. So again, that brings us to the next point, don't be unorganized. So organization obviously is key to everything. Not even just fundraising, but just everything in general in life. So be always organized, know what you're doing, know what people are going to be there, know that you have all the time slots filled out for the whole fundraiser, so you're never going to have a gap in the fundraiser. Make sure everyone knows what they're doing, make sure everyone knows
Why you're there.
why, exactly. So again, that goes back to the whole communication thing. Make sure everyone communicates, you communicate, you'll be organized. Don't rush into things. There's no point of rushing into things. We've tried and we failed multiple times just because we thought we had to get it done. We had to get it done because we needed this by this time. Well, plan it out. Again, organize so you set time goals for yourself so you don't have to rush into things. Plan way ahead. Let's say do a fundraiser next month. Don't worry about this month because you're going to need that month to plan. Make sure you have all the resources. Make sure you ask all the questions. Make sure you have all the people that you need for the fundraiser. Delegate all your resources. Use all your resources. And then again, last thing is don't be afraid to ask questions, get help, seek advice. There's no stupid question ever. The only stupid questions are the ones that aren't asked.
So you gotta kind of start thinking beyond the bake sale. So yes, bake sales can be really good, but you know, everyone's doing a bake sale. It's always happening. The resource is always getting booked up for bake sales constantly. So if you are going to do a bake sale, maybe you're like, you know, we only need like a $40 profit from this, and we could definitely swing that doing a bake sale. Be creative with your bake sale. You know, stop doing the typical cupcakes, cookies, brownies. Maybe do like pretzels dipped in chocolate, or like cinnamon rolls. These are things that we've done in bake sales that have been so much more profitable than the other two bake sales around us, because you have something different. You can go off campus into communities, and you can collaborate with different like restaurants or stores. You can do restaurant nights. There's a lot of restaurants that were willing to do that for you. Who's gonna go? Is it gonna be people from UMBC driving there, or do you need to be there during the event to advertise to people walking into the restaurant? Be like, hey, can you mention our org? You'll get 10% off your meal or something. You know what I mean? Or for every $5 you spend, we get one of them. So that's important. Online fundraisers. We do Joe Corby's fundraisers, which are really profitable for us. In terms of getting like a large lump sum of money at once, and it's easy because you can sell to people on campus for like a specific period of time. You don't have to be planning a location to sell to people. It's just talking and networking.
Think about what your skill set that you have to offer your bases. And can I understand how exhausting it is to row crew for 5 minutes? Think about what you have to offer and that people might be interested in, because most people today can buy a cupcake mix, and your cupcake might be better than mine, but most of us can make a cupcake.
And you have to think about what's happening in the year. what can I kind of like piggyback on an event going on, like homecoming on campus, or like spring break, Christmas break, Thanksgiving, little holidays, you know what I mean? So it's good to think about exactly what do you have to offer that's special that you don't see all the time. Get out of the breezeway, you know? Look for other places that you can be and where that would be visibility for you.
Because there's surprisingly a lot of places that you can be that people just don't know about just because no one's really asked yet. And like I said, touching back on what they said, play your strengths, try to stand out. Like, you're not going to get my attention if you're just telling me to buy a cupcake. But if there's a reason behind it, then yeah.
So the kind of 3 things we always touch on with our fundraising committee is be interactive. So if you're going to have people at the fundraiser, be nice, be kind, be open to people, because if they've never done this before and they're willing to pay you to have it taught to them, they're going to want someone who's nice and non-judgmental, you know what I mean? And don't be like forcing people, like harassing them to come and be part of your fundraiser. So be interactive, make it interesting, and make it innovative. So it's got to be new, but it's also got to be something that people are interested in doing. So that's kind of like our 3 tenets for a creative fundraiser. One of the best things to do is like maybe share a Google Doc with people's like phone numbers and emails and information. UMBC emails, you can usually type in a name and find someone, but sometimes people don't check their UMBC email unless they check their email. So make sure with people involved in the planning process and who are going to be participating in the fundraiser, or your org has kind of a contact list, so you can always be telling them, hey, you're not working at this fundraiser, but you better tell people about it. You know, invite them to the Facebook event, post the spotlight and have them share it on their Facebook. You'd be so surprised about how much more you get done when you spend literally just 25 minutes in person, if you're focused, than 3 days worth of email contact, because people aren't on it 24/7. You know, people are busy. So contact each other, use Google Calendars, whatever, figure it out, make time to meet in person with my fundraisers, because that's the best way to
You
make
all
sure you're
eat.
on the same page.
Make it a lunch meeting. You should all eat. If you don't eat,
Yeah.
start eating.
It can be informal, these don't have to be formal meetings.
There's a lot of things you can't get through email that you can get through talking in person.
A lot of you guys have orgs and clubs that have been here for a long time. People participated in them before you. They're probably invested in seeing that it continues. Do you have an alumni list that you can hit up? Like, I imagine there are some alums that are like, I'd really like our lacrosse team to look snappy.
And think about your connections outside the community. If you live in counties nearby, who do your parents know? What networks do you have outside of that that you can tap into to get maybe just straight up donations? Make a donation letter. Just say what you need and then give that out to people who can actually afford to give you money.
See, some of our fundraising policies feel a little crazy sometimes. They're not crazy. They're there for a good reason.
Ask why they're there. Understand.
Yes, and ask, so we want to do this, but it's going to require cash. How can we make that work? And if you hit a wall, please come talk to Student Life. We will be happy to help you guys figure out how we can maybe get to a yes in a slightly more creative or adjusted way. So get a little more creative. That's my biggest takeaway here. Think about what you have to offer. Henna nights, yoga nights, night at the game, face painting, sell popcorn. Like, get a little more creative and you will be shocked at the success that you have.